Hey, Clemson football fans, I have a question for you. Are you a bad Clemson fan? Like, are you a bad fan? I'm going to dive into this as we're live here on Clemson Football Live. I am glad that you're here. I'm Brian. Hopefully you know Clemson Football Live. If you don't, welcome, friends. Hope you'll subscribe if you like what I'm doing. Even if you want to get on here and tell me that I am brainless, hope you'll still subscribe. It helps the channel. I'm glad you're here. Yesterday, I previewed, or not previewed, premiered a video called Cade Klubnik, Is He a Bust? It's an 8-minute video. It's entertaining. It took me a lot of time. It's funny. It's sad. It really stirred up a lot of my regular viewers, and then it brought in some viewers who probably had never watched the channel before. Had a lot of really good comments on it, people who agreed with me, people who disagreed with me. Hey, that's totally fine as long as we keep it simple, civil. We don't have to get mad over, we don't have to lose our mind and become jerks over a pastime. Sorry, I just don't find that interesting. But anyway, get back to the video. Check it out. I think you'll really, really like it. I'm glad everyone is here. And thank you to everyone who was patient for me to get that out. Jonathan Benton's in here. Andrew Roof is in here live. It's good to see you all. Everybody drop a comment, whether it's on the video or in the live chat, because right now we're live. So I wanted to do something different. Now, we're about, 5 weeks away, something like that, 6 weeks away from the Clemson spring game. Last year, the spring game, nobody could wait to see Garrett Riley come out and coach it. Then everybody walked away scared to death that was our offense. I even got on here and I said, you know what? The guy's not going to show his hand. Unfortunately, a lot of that was our offense. And that leads me into this video. Are you a bad fan? You're like, dude, you just did a video breaking down Cade Klubnik. It was very specific. Your other videos have been very specific, even if we disagree with you. But this is like so open-ended, and there's no parameters. There's no way to judge exactly what you're asking. You're just asking this really, really weird question. Are you a bad fan? By what standards? Let me set the standard. Not that I'm the standard setter. I'm just saying, let me set the stage. Give you some ground rules. Are you a bad fan for questioning what is the state of our football program? Ooh, now it's starting to get a little touchy. And for some of you, you're like, no, still not touchy. Wait, there's more. When you start to dig in to try to figure out exactly why Clemson is no longer dominant like they were. Okay, well, you know what? Everybody has a bad year, and you can't win them all. You'd almost think I've heard this before. But see, I'm a troubleshooter. By nature, I'm a troubleshooter. See, I work in the corporate world, and I have people who actually will breathe down my throat and demand specific answers from me while I have great expectation. Now, I'm not going to go into my personal line of work. I love my job. I actually have a very good job. God's blessed me. I'm not bragging. I'm thankful. That's it. I'm thankful. A lot, but I work for someone who holds me accountable. But they're fantastic. And I have to give specifics to them of what I'm doing. And I deal with large companies, very, very large companies. Imagine massive companies. So I have to give an account specifically of what is going on. So excuse me if I look at my team, my Clemson football team, who I love, who I've pulled for my entire life and asked specific questions that ends up being no questions. You don't ask that question. If I had press credentials, they'd be revoked. I'd be read my rights. But the reason that I ask those questions is because I'm a bad fan. If you were a good fan, you would appreciate what's been done over the past, except for 2023, the past, how many ever years, and you would just accept it. You can't win them all, says the soccer mom. You're right, you can't win them all. I just ask about the way you lose the games. There's a way that you can lose a game with honor. There's other ways that you lose games that you realize it was because it was unorganized and there's a lack of development. So I am, and trust me, I get on here. I'm telling you, this is one of my weirdest videos that I've done in quite a while. But what I want to try to get across to some of you out there who's been feeling bad for asking certain questions about Clemson football, and then you have these people who come along and they look at you and they tell you, how dare you question anything with the leadership of Clemson football? You're spoiled. You're a brat. You're not, as Bobby Durkin's fan, you ain't a real fan. You see, it happens like that. But let me tell you this. You can go through my comments section and you can see how some of those people, not all of them, some of those people are more than willing to take Cade Klubnik, he's 19, maybe 20 at best, and rip him apart. They'll drop their drawers, they'll crap all over him, and they'll drag him around behind a truck. But don't you do that to anyone who's actually running things. You can't even question them, or you're a bad fan. Baloney. Now, I'm going to get in here in the comment section. I'm going to read through a couple of people. Ray L.A. Dabo turned into a lousy coach. I'm not going to say Dabo turned, and I'm going to get to this. Big John. Hey, Brian, I'm a bad fan. Big John. Hey, by the way, if you want to support the channel on a monthly basis, Big John does. $3 per month. $3 per month. There's a $5 tier, and you're like, what's the difference? It's the same as if you like me $5 per month worth or $3 per month worth. Go ahead. He supports the channel. Thanks, Big John. Big John Setton. He's the man. Ray L.A., I thought you were a computer guy. I'm in the software business. I'll leave it at that. Got a bunch of people in here. Daddy Burger in here. I'm an awful fan. That's hilarious. Got Big John in here supporting the channel. Happy Taco Tuesday. I'm a bad fan. I love Dabo, but expect the highest paid coach in college football to live up to his standards. Hey, John, once again, John just supported the channel for a second time, and he does it on a monthly basis. Thank you, John, for that comment. I'm getting there. Got Ray L.A. Can't make the 12-team playoff. Dabo needs to go. I'm not going to say that. Dabo isn't a coach. He just became a feminist type that gets triggered over mild inconvenient comments. John, you said it. I didn't say that. I was just laughing. Dale, what's up, Brian? It's good to see you. Love the horse pick. So, folks, I had a family member very close to me. My dad. I didn't even hide it. My dad might be watching this right now. He called me one day. He told me, he said, son, you might, your channel, you don't have this massive channel, but you do have a lot of people who watches you. I was like, yes, I do. By the way, I had someone contact me this week to join a new network of college football YouTubers and podcasters. Contacted me. we had a great conversation. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I'm heavily leaning towards doing it, but I would be part of a group, and he invited me, and it was great. It was great. So I'm not a huge YouTuber but I do have a lot of people who watches me and listens to me. So I do have the ears of a decent amount of people, whether they agree with me or not. And that's fine. You don't have to agree with me. For the love of anything, I just ask you be civil. I try to be civil. We can have a sharp tone with one another. We don't have to be overly sensitive, but just be civil. When my dad asked me, he said, could you just lay off of Dabo? I think that you would get more viewers if he said, I'm telling you, everything that you're laying out, but I'm just telling you, Brian, I think that it's hurting you in the Clemson community by talking about Dabo. He said, everything you've pointed out is spot on. But Brian, you know that people can't take the truth. You know it. They call you negative. They call you spoiled. They call you all these things. They say you hate Dabo. I don't hate Dabo. I want to go ahead and get that out of the open. If I hear one more person who says I'm not a fan and I really don't like Dabo, let me tell you, I want to clear the air. I've had respect for Swinney for a very, very long time. Okay? I've had respect for Swinney for a very long time. What he did was amazing. He took over a terrible situation. And I respect what he's done. But I am telling you, as a businessman, take this, what you're seeing here. I'm saying as a businessman and a person who doesn't believe that we have to say everything just politically correct. I'm still not over that rant from Tyler with Spartanburg. For some of you are like, man, you just need to get over it. People mess up and so on. He never said he was sorry for some of it. I don't hold hard feelings, but me remembering is not hard feelings. He exposed a lot of himself and what he felt about the Clemson community. He's the one who's in charge of Clemson. So you can, if he deserves all the credit for the success, when the ship starts going down, you have to turn back and look at the captain and go, Captain, you've been successful for years. Out of respect of what you've done, I'm looking at you going, what's going on? You don't question me. Yeah, I make mistakes. Well, could you specifically give me some to prove that you're actually working through this? No, I'm not going to do it to you, you peon, you hillbilly. Go away. Want to go pull for another team? Go pull for another team. I know you've been pulling for Clemson way before I got here, and I know you'll be pulling, well, unless you listen to me, you'll be pulling for Clemson way after. You're not a bad fan for questioning, folks. So, Dabo Swinney is not a bad coach. Dabo Swinney is he is not a bad coach whatsoever. But that really bothered me because I think that lets you know how he feels about the Clemson community now. And so, once again, no hard feelings. I appreciate what he's done. I think that if there's any man in America who can coach college football, and if they get out of this funk that he's been over the past 4 or 5 years of poor hires, that's his problem. It's not transfer portal. It's not the transfer portal. It's the poor hires. And you need to more than fire one every year. Go ahead and clean house. DW, you are 100% right. Imagine a CEO on a quarterly earnings call responded to an analyst question about 12 straight quarters of declining performance but 4 years ago, our performance was excellent. The board would remove that CEO immediately. Pause there. Dabo Swinney does not need to be fired. I don't want him to be fired. All of that is stuff that comes in, people start pumping in. But you are not a bad fan for looking at a man who had the college football world in his hands. He was giving Nick Saban fits. And DW, I didn't think that you were calling for his head, but that's a great example. I get what you're saying. By the way, Ray LA says, don't do the one particular show. That was not who contacted me, Ray. Someone else contacted me. It's nationwide. And by the way, even if for some reason I don't do it, the only reason I would do it is if I just felt like I couldn't actively meet what they wanted, or meet which they didn't have any demands, by the way. That's great. But they said they contacted me first, and that was very kind of them. It's massive. They already have. It's all I'm going to say is it was an honor to be considered, and when I say I'm going to do something, I let my yeses be yeses and my noes be noes. So I told them I'd give them an answer over the next few days, and that was great because I just want to honor my word. Back to this video. It is okay to ask yourself, what happened to the competitive edge on the offensive side of the football at Clemson? It's okay to ask that question. If you're a mechanic, you just don't walk up to an engine and go, well, let me see. By the way, I just got my car back from a mechanic, a guy I've been working with for years, trust him and everything. He gave me a call. He said, well, we fixed this one problem, but the other problem you had, way more expensive than what you thought. First, they couldn't find this particular leak. I'm not going to go into all of it, but do you know what he had to do? He had to dig down farther than what was on the surface level. He had to start tracing the leak. And that leak probably went from a $50 fix to about an $800 fix. If it was any other mechanic, I wouldn't be biting. But I've been working with this guy for many, many years. I know he's telling me the truth. How did he figure out what was wrong with my car? You want to know how? He had to start digging. And he didn't call me up going, ha, you idiot. Oh, I'm going to take you to the cleaners. No, he didn't. He said, I hate to tell you this, man. He started digging into the problem. I need to figure out what is wrong. I didn't want to hear that. Folks, I don't want to hear that there's rumblings in the Clemson community at 1 minute about who's calling plays, and you just hired Garrett Riley. Who's calling plays? Well, 1 minute you hear people say, dude, you're dumb for even bringing that up. And then you look and you go, that Garrett Riley's offense doesn't look too different than other offenses. And by the way, Garrett Riley doesn't need to learn Clemson's offense. Clemson's offense has sucked for the past 2 or 3 years. I need him to come in and revamp it. So what's the deal? You're not a bad fan for asking that question. And then if you get an answer that doesn't make sense, or it's the right answer but it's bad, it's okay for you to ask why. Why did we go from an offensive line that looked like a machine to an offensive line that it looked like local high school's defense could penetrate their line? How could this happen? And then you step back and you look at some of the rankings of these offensive linemen. I mean, some of these guys are 4-stars. Some of these guys were 5-stars coming out of high school. I think Tristan Lee was the only 5-star. I could be wrong. Forgive me if I'm wrong. But I'll be safe and say 4-star. Walker Parks? He was a 4-star. We got a few others that was 4-star. Other schools wanted them. My question is, what happened? You're not a bad fan for asking that question. In fact, it shows that you care. Now look, I had a conversation today with a family member of mine. He's a huge Clemson fan. He goes to if it's a big Clemson game, he's there. And he said something. He said, have some hope. And he's right. I'm not trying to be all pessimistic here. And I agree with him. But this is a YouTube channel where I talk about, and this is not said towards him, I'm just talking about this just out in open here. fans are, you do realize that some thought has to be put into a football team to get them to perform, just period. Not even at a high level, you have to put some thought into it. These guys just don't show up and play football. These coaches, especially on the offensive side, and I always say that because our defense lets us down very rarely, by the way. Can you imagine if our defense played like our offense? We wouldn't have won 3 games this past year. I mean, I'm being honest. We wouldn't have won 3 games this past year if our defense wasn't stellar. How is it that fill in the blank happened? That does not make you a bad fan. It says that you care. Folks, I don't feel good about this Georgia game whatsoever. You know what pisses me off? That in the entire time that Deshaun Watson was at Clemson as a starter, I know his very first game, and by the way, he came out, his first 2 passes minced them up, and we benched him. Well, you got to understand. I don't have to understand. Well, let me rephrase this. I do understand. I just don't have to accept that excuse. They should have brought him out there because Georgia couldn't handle him. But the entire time that Deshaun Watson was a full-time starter at Clemson, his sophomore and junior years, and then the 3 years that Trevor Lawrence was at Clemson, we couldn't play Georgia, and all of a sudden, we play Georgia when they're gone. When the fire is gone, we play them. You are not a bad fan for looking at the Clemson-Georgia matchup that's coming up at the end of August on a neutral site. Atlanta. It's going to be so flipping red. They might even go overboard. It'd be more red there than normally at Georgia. At Sanford Stadium. You're not a bad fan for looking at this and going, hey, based on what I've seen this year, even with that 5-game win streak, you're not a bad fan for looking at it and saying, man, I'm pulling for my Tigers. I love my Tigers. I don't want my Tigers to be in this place. I appreciate what Sweeney's done, but this is not championship football anymore. Can't win them all, man. Then why even try? I get it. You can't win them all. You can't. But you darn well better go in there and try. And then let's throw the money on top of it. If coaching doesn't matter, why are these guys paid so much? By the way, I'm just kind of show my hand here. I'm a capitalist. I want to make as much money as I can, not by stealing from people, not from victimizing people, but if I have the skills and the ability to earn as much money as I possibly can, pay me, baby, pay me. So I don't have a problem with men or women making a ton of money. I have a problem when people are being shelled out money and it doesn't seem like they have any specialty anymore. There's not specialists. They're not like a specialist anymore. And you just hire anybody in who's never coached before to run your wide receiver room. Who's a good recruiter? Keep him as a recruiter, not a wide receivers coach. How many 4-stars do you have to burn through over time? Here's how the law of numbers works. Folks, I'm not being sarcastic here, but some of you need to hear this. By the way, I have the comment section turned off to where I can't see it. I want to check it out in just a second. There's a thing called the law of numbers. Try to explain it. Really simple. The more people you have, the more of a chance that a given scenario could be present. For instance, if I walk into a room of 3 people and say, hey, does anyone have, and this is, I'm not trying to be sadistic here or dark, does anyone in this room have cancer? There might be a chance that out of those 3 people, someone has cancer or some type of disease. It's sad. But if I walk into a room of about 100 people, how many here has ever had cancer or currently has cancer? My chances just grew greatly because I have a larger number of people to pull from. How many people in this room drives a red car? If you have 3, and all the colors in that cars are produced in, it's a little slimmer. Wide range of numbers. There's a great chance, bigger numbers. There's a great chance you're going to have a bunch of people raise their hand. Oh, I drive a red car. I drive a car that's in the shade of red. And then when you do that over time, and you begin to see, you get to see certain patterns. Then what you have to do, and this is the key, this is where a lot of people fails. This is part of my job, by the way. You have to look for variables that never change. So if good things are happening, and there's changes everywhere else, but there's certain constants, there's certain things that doesn't change, you can pinpoint, hey, those are the things that are keeping this baby rolling. But if there's failure, it works the same way. If there's failure, and there's a lot of people coming through the system, and you look, oh, but what's constantly there that hasn't changed? That could be where we're failing. See, I just broke down how I look at our coaching on the offensive side of the ball. You're not a bad fan for doing that. Once again, it means you care. Now, you can, listen to me, you can be as optimistic as you want to be. That's fine. You know what, man? I'm just going to try to go to the game, enjoy it with my family. I know I hope we win. There's always a chance, but I don't have my hopes up. I just want to sit here with my family, eat a overpriced hot dog from the concession stand, and watch the game. I'm with you, man. I am with you 100%. But I've had some people come after me and get quite personal when I start questioning what's going on. And it's to those people I want to say, you're living in a fantasy world. You're living in a fantasy world. There is a cause of why the team is not as good as what it was. And for us people who are looking at it, desiring with all of our hearts that Clemson gets back to an elite nature. Across the board. Defense plays great, y'all. Defense is just, good Lord. We get back across the board. It's just because we care. I care. I love the team. I love Sweeney. I can't believe what has happened so far. I want Sweeney to get back to being Sweeney. If you watch me all the time, you've heard me say that 9,000 times. I want Sweeney. I want the old Dabo back. That's all I want. I don't want another coach. I want the old Dabo back. I really, really do. I want to get into the comment section here. Get in here and say hello. Big John says, join the channel. Yes, John not only joined the channel, but he supports the channel on a monthly basis. Let me see. Thank you so much. Daddy Burger says, what button does an iPhone user click to join? You know what, Daddy Burger? That's one of the crazy things about the join button on YouTube. If you're on an Apple product, you won't see it. So you'll have to go to like, I don't know if it's on an app. I know an iPad's an Apple product, but I know on an iPhone you can't do it. I don't know. It's really, really weird. Big John said they had to break out the laptop. Thank you so much. Ray LA says, drinking on the job. No, it's just Liquid Death. It's a really mean named sparkling water. Better get an AA meeting. Chris O'Connor says, hey, I'm checking that as an L. Hey, I love my Tigers. I'll be pulling for my Tigers against Georgia. It just doesn't look good. And you're not a bad fan for saying that. Ray LA says, I used to pour real beer into non-alcoholic beer fans. Yeah, so it was that bad, huh? The difference in opening with Georgia and opening with Duke is simple. We opened with Duke. Everyone told us we were the best team of all time. I do agree with you that we're going to play. I believe we're going to play up for this Georgia game. I'm. If you think, I will say this to myself. I'll say this to myself as a rebuttal to me. Or kind of a check to myself. Y'all can see this live. There's 57 people in here. I hope you've hit the thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing, hit the subscribe button. If you think I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. Don't get personal. There's no reason to talk about, oh, come over here, use your brain. Anyway, I don't care. Hope, yeah, just tell me what you think. Yeah. I think we know that versus Georgia's the better team across the board. Across the board. We just saw what they did to Florida State. Whether Florida State had 97 people sit out or not, that was those players' choice. And Kirby Smart made a major statement to college football. You just wait for the 12-team playoff. Kirby can coach. You may not like him. You may despise him. Once again, that man can coach. He humiliated Florida State on purpose for multiple reasons. Dabo Swinney knows this, and he's gonna coach up for this. Let me see. Tuitt Graves. Dabo can't use the underdog theory anymore. It's not going to work. Dabo just needs to learn to adapt and change like Kirby Smart has done. Kirby won national championships. What? I need to go check this, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct on this. Kirby won national championships just as quick, if not quicker, than Dabo Swinney did. And he took over a Georgia team that was just as bad, maybe in a touch of worse shape than Clemson when Swinney took over Clemson. I could be wrong. That's my opinion. Let's see. I don't have complete faith in Klubnik. If I see in the spring game the same Klubnik I saw last year, then he needs to be benched immediately. Truitt, I keep wanting to call you Tuitt. I'm thinking about Stephon Tuitt that used to play for Notre Dame. He's massive and went into the NFL. He was a fantastic player. The only thing I can say, so who are you going to start? Vizina? They're saying he's not developing unless something's changed between now and the past few months. He hasn't developed. And then you got 15 preferred walk-ons right behind him. And one transfer portal grad assistant. Daddy Burger says, I'll be putting money on Clemson to cover whatever that spread is against Georgia. I don't think the talent gap is that far off as long as coaching can get their head out of their butt. I think the variable you need to focus on is that last line you just put there. Yancey Chapman, Brian, you always make me laugh. Well, Yancey, I'm glad to share the joy of laughter, even if I'm losing my mind. Even if it's because of insanity. John Thomas, keep pointing out the reality of the situation. John Thomas, it is good to hear from you. John always reaches out. He and his wife always have the nicest things to say. It's good to hear you. Good to see you here. Thank you for hopping in here. Tony Adcock. Yes, I guess I am. Love my Tigers. Expect my Tigers to kick some butt. Hey, it's not. Hey, Tony, it is not a bad thing for you to expect the best or want the best from your team, or just hope for the best. That's not what I'm saying. And I hope I didn't convey that. I'm saying, are you a bad fan for questioning what's going on because you hope that they'll get back to excellence? You got the grandson of Bear Bryant. He has years of experience. Yeah, that's no offense to Paul Tyson. No offense to this young man, but the only times we've used the transfer portal, and trust me, once again, I always have to restate my position, because if I don't, biggest problem, the biggest concern that I have about Swinney that I wish he did differently, that is his coaching hires. And it finally caught up with him. I just that's the change. Let me see. I am looking up something. I just had Still Gamble, which Still Gamble, by the way, Still Gamble. Hold on 1 second. Not true. UGA was already a 10-win program when Smart was hired. Well, first of all, Still Gamble supports the channel. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. You support. You said not true. Let's. Let me look up their record when Kirby Smart was hired. Georgia football. Because I made that statement, and I need to be more definitive. Georgia football history. I want to look at this for myself, because I could have misspoke, and I said, call me on it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. So, you are right. Mark Rick's last year, they were 10-3. Year before that, they were 10-3. Kirby's first year, they were 8-5. His second year, they were 13-2. They were 11-3. They were 20 in 2019. They were 12-2, and we know they won a championship in 21-22. So you are right. I am wrong. So it is what it is. Bronco in Virginia, 99-86. The alumni superfans that gatekeep against fans who didn't go to school at Clemson, some of those are blind to the issues that this program contains. Turnover accountability was my issue last year. You're right. You're right. You are 100% right. It's. I mean, it's. Some of these people I don't even pay attention to. Some of them I do if I feel like arguing. Other people I'm just like, okay, well, you can be shocked unless some things change, why the team continues backwards or just stays the same. Daddy Burger, what is going on with Vizina? I didn't hear anything about him all season. He was very much hype. He was hyped up coming in. Here's another thing that I'm considered a bad fan for asking. And go back to my law of numbers, where you take constants over a long period of time versus a bunch of people that's come through the system. Trevor Lawrence never got better the entire time he was at Clemson. He didn't get better. A lot of people argue with me with that. He didn't get better. And they say, well, what were they supposed to do? Question to you. Is he getting better in the NFL? Did they not have people developing him in the NFL? Well, then why didn't Clemson go to the NFL and get a world-class NFL coach to come in and coach this guy? Because he was just out of their league. So instead of going, hey, we've got this, no, go get a specialist. You could have done that. They didn't. They didn't. Trevor had to develop himself. Although I think we were in a better place then. We were in a lot better place then. And then, towards the end of his career, especially that last year that he was there, we just got outcoached because complacency set in. And then when we already had some of these coaches that had been moved into place. That one of them still in place today. I just don't think needs to be on the staff. It doesn't need to be, well, coaching at the position level. He can be on staff, just not at the position level. Deshaun Watson was Superman. I mean, both of those guys were once-in-a-lifetime talents, and we got them within just a few years of each other. I mean, Kelly Bryant was only in between them. Kelly Bryant played with both of them. But going back to what this originally talked about with Vizina, and just throw this out there to anyone who wants to listen. DJ didn't live up to the expectations. People are calling Cade a bust right now and saying he doesn't live up to expectations. Vizina is not developing like they say he is. One guy doesn't live up. Well, that's one guy. Second guy, third guy? How many more busts do you need? goes back to development, folks. You will have bust over time. You will have players who comes into the system, into any system, whether it's Clemson, whether it's Georgia, Ohio State, whatever, and they slack off. They think they're the crap. They've been given special treatment all through high school. They've been praised. Every time you open up some type of recruiting book, you get on one of these recruiting profiles, whether it's 24/7 Sports, On3, or Max Prep, whatever it is, Rivals, and you go and you look up, they're at the top and they're being praised and they have NIL money and money galore, whatever. They're the king, and then they start slack off. And they come into a big-time college football situation, and guess what happens? Ain't good anymore. And then some of them can't stay out of trouble. Some of them just can't stay out of trouble. I can't stop smacking their girlfriend around. And for anybody who's like, well, that's a straw man, go look it up. It's sad. Beat the crap out of the girlfriends. So, how many more bust of quarterbacks do we need before we realize there's a development issue? How many wide receivers do we have to continue? Listen to me. How many wide receivers do we have to run through before we realize that, hey, we recruited the same 4 stars as Georgia. We recruited the same 4 stars as Ohio State, and they chose to come to Clemson. They could have went to Texas. They came to Clemson. They could have went down to Florida State. They came to Clemson. They could have went to Southern Cal. They came to Clemson. I could keep going on. They could have went to Tennessee. And you know what? They keep fizzling out. They're not as good as what's the constant? Who's developing them? You need to go right there. That's where you need to start. You need to go to that place. You need to ask that question. Because we either have the worst luck of recruiting or it's a development issue. It is. And you're not a bad fan for pointing that out. In fact, again, it tells you you're trying to figure out what is the problem. What is the problem? James Clements. James Clements got in here. Let me see. SR987, bring Durkins back. You are a member. SR987, bring Durkins back. Folks, if you want Bobby Durkins to come back, Bobby Durkins will come back. Go over to his page, find his last video, comment, bring Bobby Durkins back. You know I'm good for my word. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I do my very best to do it. And I try not to say too much. Every now and again, I slip up. James P. Clement says, we want Durkins. Big John says, Brian, not for president. John, you're the man. I wouldn't get elected. Never mind. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. James P. Clements, once Klubnik graduates, we're messed up. He breaks his ankle, we're messed up. We're messed up. And if Azina got hurt, if he got hurt, who's next in line? Pierman, Shaw. I mean, I'm not knocking these guys. Trent Pierman was very talented at Daniel High School. I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying, I just can't believe that we don't have more competition in quarterback room. It's bad. It's bad. Folks, I'm going to let you go. We're at the 45-minute mark for everyone who hung in here. Thank you so much. If you like what I am doing, I hope you'll subscribe. I hope you'll pass it along to your friends, your neighbors. If you want to support the channel on a monthly basis, if you're on an Apple product, just like someone here saw, you can't subscribe. You can't join on your iPhone. But if you want to join, go to a laptop. I do appreciate it. It's so cheap you won't even miss it. Double Nault Durkins. Durkins needs to be a super spy and become a Bama fan for a short time. That would be fun. And he'd fit in. They would think he's normal. That's what's sad. That's what's sad. I want to hear what you have to say. Leave in the comment section below. Tell me where I'm wrong. Keep it civil, okay? Can you be civil? We don't have to be a jerk to each other. You can be stern. But it's not like I took a swipe at your wife or smacked your kid around. Tell me, am I wrong? If so, be specific. If I'm right, tell me if you're kind of in the middle there. Either way, I'm glad you're here. I want to see your comments. I hope you subscribe if you like what I'm doing. But you know what? Either way, it's always good to be a Tiger. Go Tigers.